All right, welcome back. Episode number 2 for today, the Bay Ragni Show. We are live and we are here. I am so excited for this one, especially this guy. Welcome him back to the show. Actually, it was a different show, but let's welcome him to this show right now. And we're going to talk all about different times, eras, things, life. And as you see, he's got his guitar with us. He might even play something for us. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Chris DeLisle. And I got it right. How about that?
Yeah, man, you did. Thank you very much, man.
Dude, welcome back. I am so excited to talk to you. Um, you know, crazy thing. So if people don't know this, so I also with my now fiance run the Nashville Restaurant Review,
Yep.
and I first met Chris and his now wife. Congratulations on the marriage.
Thank you.
Your partner in crime over there. They were
Yeah.
the peeps behind Music City Bread, and it's actually it was almost a year ago that we talked for the first
Yeah.
time.
Been a long time.
Crazy, yeah, man. So that was like a whole other world. It seems like literally a lifetime ago, and
Yeah.
you're no more the bread man of Nashville.
Yeah. No, not anymore. It does feel like a completely different lifetime at this point because I guess that has been a long time since we talked about that. But yeah, we're not doing it anymore. We had a good time doing it, and I still have all my recipes, and the URL is mine, and the brand is mine, and the Facebook page and all that stuff still exists. And maybe someday we'll sell it to someone who wants to open a bread company, and I'll consult, or maybe maybe we'll have that someday in the future when we have all of the money in the world and nothing to do with it, I guess.
I
But
love it.
in the meantime, I make bread just for us and for family and friends because I got pretty doggone good at it. But we don't do it as a business anymore. That was it was kind of got to a point. It was sort of like, do you want to be a bread baker or do you want to be a musician? And I was like, hard pass on the bread. I'll take the musician thing all day. And we came to a fork in the road, and it's like you got to pick one way or the other. And so I picked music.
I was wondering too if that was like a big part of it because I knew at the time that you both had a major musical background, and and I didn't even like really realize till I started you know diving into you and really researching the whole music part of you now that you
Yeah.
actually like you went to college for music. I mean, you have a degree in music. It's not like you're just somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like end up in Nashville and play music.
Yeah. I went to Belmont. I went to Belmont University. I started in their guitar program, in their commercial guitar music program. And my sophomore year, I switched into their, at the time, brand new songwriting program through their School of Music Business
Wow.
and did a minor in classical guitar. So I have a degree in music business with songwriting and a minor in classical guitar, and 22 years of guitar playing experience in sort of in tandem with all of that. So that's really why I ended up in Nashville and what I actually do. The bread was kind of a oopsie daisy. We got to pay the bills, and I sort of stumbled into doing that because it was the year 2020 and everybody lost their minds for a while.
What was it? Like when you were going through that, like with the whole Music City bread, and did it kind of like almost hit you in the face, like man, like you said, like I know I can do this, but it's going to take my life up. It's going to take
Yeah.
everything I have up, and that thing right there in your hands is the thing that's truly, besides now your wife, is your life.
Yeah. I started baking bread in the middle of lockdown because we were stuck at home. I had never done it before, and I just thought it sounded fun. And I don't know, I guess I just had a knack for it. I got pretty good at it pretty fast. And I was posting stuff on social media, as you do when you're stuck inside. And it sort of took off on its own. And it went from me baking bread in my kitchen, deciding I wanted to share it with people. For me personally, my faith is a really big important part of my life. And bread is very biblically symbolic, and for me to feed people is how I show that I care about people. And bread is easy to transport. You can throw it in a bag and take it home, and it's good for a week before it's going to start getting too crusty or whatever. So it was just a good vessel to care about people. And so I started doing that, and next thing I know, I've got people asking if they can buy bread from me. And at the time I was waiting tables part time. I was teaching guitar. My guitar lesson business had taken off quite a bit because everyone had time on their hands.
Right.
But I wasn't waiting tables anymore because restaurants were shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that they were able to do was takeout orders, and I didn't work in the takeout area. So I thought, I talked with Ashley about it, and it was like, well, maybe we can do this as just kind of a, sell some bread on the side to make a little extra cash until the pandemic is over in, a month or so. And then here we are. And so it just kind of accidentally happened. And then, we worked with a couple of venues in town, and it basically got to a point where there were some issues with, there was a fire at one of the venues, and so the kitchen had some issues going on, and we sort of came to this moment of crossroads. And it was like, Ash and I were standing there in the kitchen at this venue this day, finding out that there had been a fire, the night before and all this, and we finished our stuff that we had for the day, which was not easy because of the mess in the kitchen, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's you got to have professional people clean stuff like that up, and
sure.
We're standing there looking at each other, and she looked at me and she goes, "Do you really want to do this?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Do you want to bake bread for the rest of your life? Like, is this your dream?" She said, "If this is your dream, I will 100% support you, and we will put into this everything we've got, and we'll make it happen." Because my wife is just an amazing human being, and it was willing to do things that certainly were not her dream if she thought they were mine. And I said, "No, my dream was to be a musician." I said, I want to teach guitar. I want to be a guitar artist. I want to be, I'm her lead guitar player because she's also a country artist. And so, I do lead guitar and band leader stuff for her. And I was like, we're supposed to be on the road and being musicians and, making a living with a guitar in our hands. And I said, this is just a side thing. And, we thought about it, and it's like, if we're going to do this and do it right as a bakery, to own something like that, we sort of looked into it, and it's like, it's going to take probably about a $250,000 business loan to get a storefront. And then I'm going to have to work it 7 days a week, probably 18 hours a day for the next 5 years before we'd ever turn a profit.
Right.
And that's if we were the fortunate business owners whose businesses, last. And that's just, especially with the pandemic and the way the economy was starting to go, and it was just going on and on and on. And it was like, this is not where we are anymore, and so we walked out of the venue that day. We were done with everything, and we made the decision. And so we made an announcement to all of the wonderful fans of our bread that I appreciated so much. And, we told them, we said, "Hey, we're musicians. It's not goodbye forever, but it is goodbye for now. And maybe we'll be back doing this. Maybe we won't. Maybe it is just, a tale of our history that I'll get to tell our kids and grandkids someday. I don't know."
Right.
But it was a great experience that helped us survive what is an unprecedented difficult time for musicians. And, it got us through a period where I don't know what we would have done otherwise, to keep the bills paid. And, it was kind of hard to let go of it, because we'd put so much work into it, and it was really something we had dove deep into. And we came to a point where we got to go one way or the other. And I was like, no, I came to Nashville as an 18-year-old kid thinking, back then I was like, I'm going to be a rock star, and I had the spiky hair to boot. But, now it's sort of a thing of like, I came here because I'm a musician, and I love making people feel these wonderful emotions, be they, good or bad emotions, to process things when you play music. I was doing kind of the same thing with my bread, but it was in a different way. And, I still like to bake things, and I still love to feed people and do that kind of stuff. But as far as putting our time and our money and our investment of energy and everything we have on the line for a bakery, it just didn't make sense anymore. And it was a wonderful experience and a great part of our life that we'll always remember. But it was time to move on and get back to this baby right here. So,
well, I mean, the pandemic really taught all of us, I think a lot about ourselves, and I think it really taught you who you truly want to be.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's funny. my sort of musical journey in Nashville has had uh, some interesting paths that I would say are maybe a little bit different than what some musicians do. So I came here for college, graduated. I ended up working in higher education for a little while.
Okay.
For a couple of years, I did residence life and student administration type stuff. And then I quit that job and I was going to pursue being a songwriter because that's really what I had, kind of leaned into. This is what I was going to do and what I was going to be. And I started doing that, and that was the first time that I ended up doing the day job and then trying to do music thing too.
Okay.
And I was actually waiting tables at California Pizza Kitchen over in Green Hills back then.
Okay.
And I lived right down the road from it. And man, it got to a point like I was struggling to pay bills because just waiting tables is not always the luxurious life that we all that we all believe it might be. That's a joke, of course, but I wasn't really able to pay my bills, and that was the first time since I'd graduated that I was struggling financially like that, and I felt like I was kind of failing. And I really had to go through a rough learning process. In the meantime, I ended up getting a job working in higher education again in Key West, Florida.
Wow.
And so I picked up my entire life and I moved 1,200 miles to a place where I didn't know anybody. Like my family had some history, with vacationing in Key West. So I had grown up with all these stories and I'd been there a couple of times myself, but I didn't really know anybody there. And so I just literally packed everything in my car and took off and moved 1,200 miles in the space of a week and ended up moving into an apartment down there that I had never seen that was provided by the college that I worked for. And I did again another stint in higher education working in student administration. I was the coordinator of residence life at Florida Keys Community College, which is now the College of the Florida Keys. And I ended up getting promoted up to like director of campus life. And so like I was doing all of this, student administrative career stuff. And I realized like I just was never picking up my guitar. I was never playing music. I was never doing the things that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't take it. And so I was like, I've got to figure out some better way of doing this. And so I ended up moving back to Indiana, which is where I'm originally from.
Okay.
My parents were kind enough to let me crash at their pad for a little bit until I could figure out how to get on my feet. And I worked as like substitute teaching at the local high school where my mom works. And I was teaching guitar lessons at a local music shop. And I started putting work into my guitar chops. And I spent roughly probably an average about 7 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week practicing guitar for almost a year. Especially a good hard 6 months where I never failed. I mean, I had some days where if I wasn't working, it was 15 hours of practice. And I just put in this massive amount of work because I needed to prove to myself that I could do things that I had sort of always thought that I could do, but I'd never really been able to achieve. And I started doing things on guitar that I'd never done before. And it really I was excited about it, right? I had this fire that was lit. And so I started incorporating what I was teaching myself, working with some materials from a mentor who was really the first stage of me being able to then, take this next step. I started taking that stuff and incorporating it into my own teaching of my students. And I very quickly became a teacher that was being sought after in the music shop where I was working. Like the adult students and the people who were like, hey, I'm really serious. I need to learn quick. Who do I take from? They were sending him to me. And I even had one of the other teachers at the shop who was like, I've got this teenage kid. He wants to learn to shred and I can't teach him anymore. I've taught him everything I can. He needs to take lessons with you. And so, I sort of found this path and I started saving money and working on things. I was making trips back to Nashville, co-writing. Throughout this whole process, I'd gotten my first couple of songs cut by an Irish country artist. The first one actually was while I was in the Keys. It was kind of the first step to getting me back to Nashville.
Okay.
She cut a song called Rock and Roll Banjo. And I had written that with a lady named Jan Buckingham, who is a songwriting legend in Nashville. And I actually met her working at California Pizza Kitchen. So all of this stuff started to tie together. And Rock and Roll Banjo back in, I think it was about 2015 or so, she cut that and it went to #1 on the hot disc charts in Ireland and the UK. And she ended up making a trip over to Nashville like about 7 or 8 months later, I think, after it had gone to #1. And so I came down here and I met her and several other people from her whole entourage from Ireland. And I got introduced to some people here. And so it kind of kickstarted this whole thing where then about 4 years ago, I was able to take money I'd saved up and move back to Nashville. And, since then I've done songwriting, I've done lessons. I played in a duo for a while, which was cool. And I've done a number of different things in kind of all these different directions, and have really sort of in time settled on, this is kind of who I am. This is what I do. This is my brand. This is how I sound. This is what I write about. This is what I sing about. And in the meantime, have sort of built up, the ability to do studio work for other people. I have several producers and studio guys in town that like to call me up to do their guitar work when they have clients that need guitar tracks. So I do some of that. I do, a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats as a musician now. And then in the midst of that, we threw, Bread Baker into it. And that was kind of why when we sort of came to that crossroads, it's like, well, which one of these am I really going to dedicate the rest of my life to? And it was a easy decision to go the music route for sure.
It seems like everywhere you turn, though, over this course, since you initially came to Nashville at 18, and going back and forth to Florida or back to Indiana, it seems like it always comes back to full circle to Nashville, though.
Yes.
Like this is where you're meant to be.
Yes, it definitely has for me. And I people always ask me like, so what is your plan? Where are you going to be in 5 years? And I kind of laugh at that question sometimes, because I'm sort of like, I'm one of those people that I'm like, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plan. And I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years. Like, I have all of these things I shoot for. I have goals that I try to achieve, but I also don't hang on to the idea that, oh, that's the way it's going to happen. Because every time I've thought that I know what I'm doing and I know where I'm going, something else changes. And I end up in a situation where I didn't really expect to be doing another big shift. But each time it happens, I shift away and then I come back to Nashville. And then I go try something else and I come back to Nashville. And this time around, I had shifted away really far, and some of that was lack of confidence. We can get into all of that, of how I teach my students and talk about confidence and everything, because that's really the biggest element of being able to do any of this stuff. But there was a big lack of confidence that came from just wondering if I was really good enough to be able to do this for a long time. And I sort of made the move back to Nashville once I had gotten to a certain point in my guitar chops that I'd been working on so hard. I had kind of these ideas in my head of, this is where I need to be, and I need to play a certain speed, and I need to know certain skills, and I need to have certain techniques and all this stuff under control. Well, when I hit those, I moved back to Nashville, and I started jumping on stage doing songwriting rounds. And all of a sudden I realized, like, I'm far out playing what anybody would expect you to do on a guitar in a songwriting round. And that's not an insult to any of the other people playing in songwriting rounds. That's just not the specialty of most people that are on stage in a songwriting round. Like,
right.
When it's you and an acoustic guitar, no one expects you to be, doing all this crazy stuff on the neck of a guitar, because that's not really what most of those people are there to do. And so I started doing all this kind of stuff, and I was like improvising along with other people that were on stage if they were okay with it. And I discovered, like, I've got this thing that I do on the guitar that not a lot of people in the songwriting community are even trying to do, let alone already capable of doing. And so I way overshot what I thought I needed to be able to do this. And it was good, though, because it was a point of self-discovery for me of what is it that makes me what I am, and who am I as a musician and a guitar player. And then, over the course of the last 4 years or so while I've been in Nashville, I've kind of honed that, ironed that out, and really figured out what I am. And then what's really interesting is, a few years ago, I met my wife. And, she, as I said, she's a country artist. And if there's anybody out there who understands marketing and branding and like what it is that makes you who you are, I mean, she's brilliant at it. Absolutely brilliant. And I look up to what she can do and what she can understand with that kind of stuff so much. And I've learned massive amount about that part of my music from her. And she was the one that finally really helped me figure out, like, no, you are good enough at this. And yes, you do have the things that it takes. Here's who you are. Here's what's important to you. And here's how you approach it. And, I owe a lot of that to her, because that's really changed what I do. And that's why I'm a guitar artist, and why I do the stuff that I do now, is because of the fact that she helped me discover all of that. So it was a big learning experience that went through multiple states and multiple places. And if you look at the bio on my website, I think I even say that in there. Like, I went through multiple states and stages of life, and I found my way back here, and here I am.
Did you ever at that time, though, like going through mainly your time here in Nashville, um, was there ever any other styles of music you wanted to like go into, or you were leaning towards, or was it always more the country music? Or
Yeah, so it's funny, when I was when I was 15 years old, I grew up on 60s and 70s classic rock and some of the 80s hair metal. That's what my dad listened to, and when I was about 11 years old, I started playing guitar, and he got me listening to that kind of stuff with him. And that's what I did. I played rock music, and I was all about the rock and roll, and I wanted to get into some of like the neoclassical shred stuff, like just the
mm,
crazy insane stuff. I had no idea how to do any of that. And so I was really into rock, and I went to a guitar camp at MTSU, actually, when I was 15 years old.
okay,
And it's not even a thing anymore. It's totally defunct and gone now, which is really sad, because it did some cool stuff. But I went there at 15. I met a guy by the name of Johnny Highland, and I saw him play. He was a guest artist that came to play, one of the concerts that they would do at night for all the students there. And he played, and he walked out on stage, and he was like this big guy in a cowboy hat, and he had a sparkle gold Telecaster. And he walked out, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a country player, it's going to be twangy and all. And here we go. I was like, I was a judgmental 15-year-old rock star at that point, right?
I was there. Hey,
And yeah, and I was like, here we go. And his band started playing, the bass and the drums and the keys were kind of laying out a pad for him. And he stepped up in the mic, and he's like, well, howdy, folks. My name's Johnny Highland. And I'm like, yep, here we go. Of course, his name is Johnny Highland. And he started playing guitar. And my jaw dropped, because I had never seen somebody do something on an instrument like that in my life. And now, to top everything off, he's also legally blind. And he, told everybody that. And I'm like, so you can't even see what you're doing, and you're doing things that I didn't know you could do on a guitar. And from the end of that concert till present day, right, 15 years old all the way to 33 right now, that man was, and probably always will be my favorite guitar player, because he could do things playing in country guitar. He could do things that I'd never seen anybody do on an instrument. And he also said, like, when he was a teenager, he's like, I grew up on rock and metal and all this other kind of stuff along with country. And he said, so I blend all of it together. And he's like, yeah, I play country, and that's the tone I use. But he's like, but I still play all this other stuff too. And he started doing this like two-handed tapping thing on his guitar with a bunch of distortion. I mean, it was like Eddie Van Halen type, tapping type stuff, and just blew me away. And I sort of realized at that point, country guitar can be really, really cool, and it doesn't have to just be old style twangy stuff. Now, I've since come to develop a great respect for that old style twangy stuff, because I realize how hard that is. And now I actually really like it. But that was kind of the beginning of me starting to shift. And so then all through high school, I played a lot of rock and roll, but I had this kind of country thing in the back of my mind. When I auditioned to go to Belmont, I played a piece called Clutterbilly by Keith Urban, back when he was with a group called The Ranch, before he was even like a successful solo artist. It was like Keith Urban and The Ranch. And there's this song out there, it's a guitar instrumental called Clutterbilly, and it is a hot chicken picking country guitar kind of thing. Super cool. It was the first time I'd ever tried to do anything like that. And I listened to it, and I'm like, yeah, I think I can learn this. Well, 6 hours of practice a day for, I don't know, several months. And I finally got to where I could play through that one song. And it humbled me to realize how difficult these things were. And so I passed my audition. I came to Nashville. And the summer before I came to Nashville, I went back to that same guitar camp at MTSU, and I took the country class. because I'd done rock stuff previously. I took the country class because I wanted to sort of up my country knowledge a little bit before I came to Nashville for college. Johnny Halen came in as one of the guest speakers for our little country class. There's only like 7 of us in there. And he sat there, and so I met him again, and it just reaffirmed for me how good he was.
Wow.
And so then I kind of, I came to Nashville, and I did the whole songwriting thing, which, there's some folk and some rock and some pop and some all different kinds of influences that I had with that, blues and just a bunch of different things. And so I played around with all of that, and then it was a long time before I really got back to doing the guitar thing seriously the way I wanted to. When I was in Indiana and I was working on all my guitar chops, I was working on that neoclassical shred stuff that I'd always wanted to do. All the sweeps and the fast playing and all that stuff. And I said there were some goals that I had for myself, like speed and different techniques. One of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to hit the ability to play 1,000 notes a minute. That's 16th notes at 250 beats per minute. So 250 multiplied by 4, right? So you get 1,000 notes a minute. I wanted to play that speed because I had been told by a mentor that's considered by him and by a number of other guitar players in the world virtuosic speed, and very few guitar players ever get to that point. So I hit that. It took me about 6 months. It took me about 6 months to do it. I hit 1,000 notes a minute, and then 3 weeks later, I hit 1,200 notes a minute, and I had surpassed it. And I realized at that point, okay, I'm just focusing on speed. There's other things I need to worry about. So then I really started working on melodic things and understanding more about the guitar neck. And next thing you know, I was like, I'm going to start going back to Nashville. And I rediscovered that love for country guitar. And I have worked on my chicken picking chops and my country chops ever since, because I had all the rock and the blues stuff kind of where I liked it, but I had never taken the time to put in the work on country. And I'll tell you, out of all the things that I've done on the guitar, the country is definitely a lot harder than all the other. And so I've put a lot of work into being a country player for the last 4 years. And it's been an incredible journey. And so this, again, here's this kind of full circle thing for me. Johnny has always been my favorite guitar player. When I moved back to Nashville, he was still living in Nashville at the time. He's since moved to Virginia, which makes my heart very sad, but I still stay in touch with him. I went to his house when I moved back to Nashville and took a guitar lesson with him. I saw him play downtown a number of times.
Wow.
The first time I went to see him play downtown, I reminded him who I was, and he was like, "Yep, I remember you." And I'd given him a guitar pick with my name on it, like when I was 17 years old. And he's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I remember you. I still remember that pick, and still got it in a box of picks I keep." And I became friends with Johnny, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And I just released a debut single this last Friday, featuring Johnny Highland. So he and I basically did a honky tonk collaboration where my wife Ash and I co-wrote a song in the midst of the pandemic, and then a friend of mine, J4 Wandis, he's an incredible musician and wonderful producer. He and Ash co-produced it, and then a fantastic drummer by the name of Max Wiltsey. He played drums on it for me, and then Johnny and I both did the guitar parts, and we did guitar duels where we're actually playing honky tonk chicken picking guitar stuff back and forth. And it was this full circle moment, because I went from being 15, wondering if I could ever do something like that, and discovering this totally unknown player that I didn't know anything about, to 33 years old, and he's a wonderful friend of mine and a huge mentor for me as well. And we got to go into a studio setting and actually play and release this song together, when that was something that I never knew if I would even be able to play well enough to be able to do something like that, let alone actually be friends with him and get to do something like that with him. So that was a real full circle dream come true moment to release that single with him.
How was it approaching him? Like, I know you said you guys have been stayed in touch over the years and all. Mm-hmm. Was it always like when the song was coming together more and more? Did you have Johnny in mind the whole time, and were you nervous to approach him with it, or was it something that you always? Did you kind of say to him over the years, like, I'm going to do a song and we're going to do something together at some point?
Yeah, I never entertained the idea of being able to even do something like that until after I became friends with him. I took a guitar lesson from him, and I was at his house for like 3 hours that day. And I think something that's really super cool. He probably wouldn't even realize this meant as much as it did, but he gave me a couple of these leather bracelets that he used to wear in some of these promo photos that he did back when he was with a company called PRS that they endorsed him as a guitar player.
Okay.
I actually have one of his signature PRS guitar models
Oh wow.
from back in the day, and there was when I was first getting into country. There's a promo photo of him holding one of those guitars, and he's wearing this bracelet. It's like a black leather, and it's got studs on it because he kind of blended that rock and country thing, which is what I kind of like to do as well. And I remember I was over at his house for this guitar lesson, and we were talking about all this, and he gave me several of these leather bracelets, including the one that's in that promo photo, because he doesn't wear them anymore. And he was like, you're kind of doing the rock thing too. He's like, I'd like to give you these. These are, super cool if you'd like to wear them. And I was like, man, that's so kind of you. And I still have them. I don't wear them too regularly. They're more mementos for me than anything now. But
Sure.
he gave me those, and I realized like Johnny is one of the nicest people that I think I've ever met, especially in the music business, but just in general. And he was so open to just mentoring me and being helpful, but just also being a friend. And I took this guitar lesson with him, and he was like, hey, here's my cell phone. If you have any questions, or you ever want to just go look at gear around town, he's like, just shoot me a text or call me or whatever. Really, really nice guy. And so,
wow.
this was a while later. He had moved to Virginia. He and his wife have family out there, and he's Johnny Highland. He can do music from wherever he lives. Everybody knows who he is. So he doesn't need to be in Nashville and trying to be right in the middle of everything. And that's not really what he does anyway. So he made that move, and I was just staying in touch with him distance wise. And in the middle of this pandemic, Ash and I were talking about what I wanted to do as a guitar artist, because I was really starting to develop this identity.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, why don't we write a song that you can do something with Johnny? She's like, I bet he would love to do that. And I was like, man, I would love to do that. That would be so cool. And so we had this idea, and we ended up sitting down and writing the song. And, we kind of put it away for a while because we didn't have the money at the time to even think about paying for the recording time or any of the stuff it would take to do this. And about a year later, we pulled it back out because financially we had sort of stabilized from going through a bakery and then losing it, and me getting a different job that I work now, and her getting a job, and all this kind of stuff that we were trying to survive as musicians. And so when things stabilized, it was like, okay, we're ready to do this. We have the ability to put this out now. And so I just messaged him, and I had sort of mentioned it offhand to him a while back, and he was like, yeah, just let me know anytime. And so I messaged him, and I was like, hey, we're financially at a point where we're able to do this. And, I said, it's time to do this. Are you still willing to do this? And he's like, man, I'd love to play on a track with you. And I wasn't too nervous about asking him to do it, because I know just Johnny is very open, very humble. And so I knew that if I was ready to do it and he had the availability to do so, he would totally be down to do it. Anything he could do to help. He went on and did like a video on YouTube one time, which you can actually see on my website, where he endorsed me as a guitar teacher. I talked with him about what I was doing, and he was just trying to help me out. And he wants to see us succeed, and believes in the way that I play and the things that I can do. And he's just really cool that way. And so reaching out to him and saying, hey, would you be willing to track this with me and do this? He was like, yeah, buddy, I'd be glad to do that. I'd be honored. And so, we did this, and he sent off some guitar parts for me and called me up, and he's like, man, what do you think about this? And I was like, dude, these things are awesome. And so we, we worked on it all and put it all together, and put that single together. And it just, it's just a killer tune. It's a killer track. And,
It is.
His playing is incredible. And I think, to the best of my abilities, I think I kept up with him pretty good, which is no small feat to keep up with a man like him on a guitar. So we had a blast doing it, and it was very much like, it was just meant to be. And he said he had a ball doing it too, which just makes me that much happier about it.
Now the song is called "Work Don't Work," which I absolutely freaking love. The whole the concept behind it, because it's like you almost wrote this song for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. It's especially one of the things that this whole COVID pandemic has taught me is that, there's a lot of people out there, and myself included, that we spend so much time working our life away that, we've forgotten a lot of things like family dinners and time with people that we love, and just stopping to enjoy the small things in life. And when the world shut down and we all had to for a minute, I think, some people I think have just gone crazy, just wanting to be able to get out and do stuff. But for me, Ash and I got locked in the house together basically, and we had a lot of time to just spend time together and talk about what we want in our future. And she went through a very difficult issue with losing a Facebook page to hackers and all this kind of stuff in the midst of the pandemic too. And we had to come up with a plan of fixing all of that, and she had to go through this whole rebranding, and that's its own totally different story. But we had all of this time to really appreciate like the fact that what we have is we've got each other, and we have a lot of blessings in our life. The Lord has been very good to us, and in the midst of all of this, we've had to work really hard, but we've come out of it with a much better understanding of what really matters. And so this song kind of came out of this idea, and it's a honky tonk tune. It's meant to be fun and tongue in cheek and everything, but this whole thing of like the hook line of the chorus is, I'm spending my whole life playing because work don't work for me, and I realized like I play guitar, right? This thing right here, this is what I do. This is my work. And getting to like that kind of, just the feeling of making an instrument do that, that's what gets me excited, and that's what makes me do the things that I do on a daily basis. And so I work a day job right now, but that's just because we have bills to pay. And if I could just play music and be able to pay my bills in the process, I would do that in an instant, because that's what I'm really made to do. And that's that whole thing of like, work don't work for me. Maybe it works for other people, but I think when it's work, you're doing it because you need to pay bills or you got responsibilities, and that's part of being a human being on planet Earth. But when you spend your whole life playing, and that can look like something different for everybody, but when you spend your whole life playing, or you spend your whole life doing the things that you love and the things that fill you up and make you happy, and where you're caring about other people and you're giving good things to other people because you're passionate about what you're doing, it everything gets a whole lot better. And that's something I've really learned. Like, I have to work to pay the bills, but when I don't have to work, it's all about playtime, and let's do things that make us fulfilled and make us satisfied in our lives. And I think that's really what came out of this whole pandemic. And Ash losing her Facebook page and having to basically start from scratch after she had put years of work into being a successful independent artist. And we built businesses, we lost businesses. I was working 3 jobs at one point to keep us afloat, and Ashley was she went and got a job, and we were doing everything we could to survive. And in the midst of all of that, it's like, work don't work for me. We need to get back to being able to do what we love, and figure out how to make a living doing it when the time comes.
Absolutely. Now, with this song, like it's crazy. Like, I was literally this morning, like when I was rolling through my head with starting to put things together with questions and stuff like that, and like thinking about the song and all, I'm thinking to myself, you need to make a video for this song. Like, the ideas for a video were rolling through my head, and it was just like so much fun. And it's just like, you can have so much fun with this song and the guitar duel with you and Johnny in a a bar in Nashville somewhere, just a crowd of people who just don't want to work, having a good time. I mean, this could be just such a fun song translated into a video.
Yeah, I would love to, maybe in the future be able to do something like that, because I think it would be really fun. And I think that, there's, again, be good to the people around you, right? I think something that I would love to do is, if I ever have the financial ability to, finance a video for this song, I'd love to do something like that. I'd love to get Johnny involved in it, because I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and he was talking about kind of like leaving Nashville and all this sort of stuff. And I said, there's a lot of people who just don't know who he is. And I mean, why would they? Like, he's not a household name. He's not an A-list celebrity type guy. But I guarantee a lot of people in the music business in Nashville know who he is. because he's very, very good. I mean, in my opinion, he's the greatest Telecaster player who's ever lived, and I've learned riffs from all the good ones, and his stuff by far I find to be the most impressive, and that's just my own view. But a lot of people just don't know anything about who he is, and that just I sort of am like, no, I want everyone to know who he is. I want everybody to know who Johnny Highland is, so that they can go listen to his music and watch his live streams that he does, and learn about the products he endorses, and buy the signature series guitar that he has with Kiesel right now. If any of the guitar players are out there listening, Johnny has a really super cool signature guitar with Kiesel guitars, and it's absolutely incredible. I have one of those as well. That was kind of my next step into the Telecaster world, and I mean, they're just incredible guitars, and he has all these cool things going on, but so many people don't know who he is because he's such a niche market kind of a guy because of what he does, and just helping more people find how incredible of a guitar player he is, and expanding his fan base. As obviously I'm trying to expand my own as well, and show people that I'm here and I do my thing, but we're musicians. We all do this together. We can't,
Right.
you can't do this on your own. You try to be a one man band, and it just doesn't work in the long run. And
Nah.
He's helped me out greatly, and I'd love to do something like have a video where not only do people realize that if there's two of us playing, it's not just Johnny, it's me as well, but maybe for some more people to figure out, like, okay, well, this is who this Christopher DeLisle guy is, but this is who this Johnny Highland guy is too, and see us as sort of musician brothers in arms, as it were. So
you know what? I'm honestly, I'm guilty as one of the people. I didn't know who he was
yeah,
until I heard the song, and I saw you hyping it up the weeks leading up to the release. And once I sit down and start doing the interview, and I look him up, and I'm like, oh my god, like this dude's played with all the biggest names there is. Like,
oh yeah,
why have I never? If I haven't heard of him, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure a lot of others haven't heard of him either.
absolutely. There's a video that I love sending to people when I say something about Johnny and they don't know who he is, because like I said, he's kind of a specific person that if you're not looking for that kind of a thing, you may not always know about. But there's a video that I love to send to people. It's on YouTube. It's Sammy Hagar from Van Halen is on stage at Cabo Wabo, and he's performing, and he brings Johnny Highland on stage and introduces him, and like has his arm around Johnny as they're getting ready to perform a song together, and he's like, Johnny's one of the greatest guitarists ever, and he's just incredible. And I'm like, this dude stood on stage next to Eddie Van Halen for a large part of his career, and when he then pulls Johnny Highland on stage with him and talks about how great he is, and like you can tell like they're super cool and they're tight and everything, like that says a lot about the kind of influence Johnny can have on people because of the way he can play. And there's a lot of artists that are like that. I mean, they love Johnny, and that's something that I think you realize very quickly is like, Johnny's a good dude, but he is an awesome guitar player, and everybody knows it. So that's, that was why, is like the fact that it's like, we're getting ready to do this thing. I told Ash the day that I went in to start recording guitar parts, she was like, are you excited? And I said, yeah, I am. I'm also a little nervous. I said, I'm not sure who in their right mind says, hey, let's walk into a studio and let's try to guitar duel with one of the greatest Telecaster players who's ever lived. Let's see how that goes, and then put it out into the world for people to listen to. But that's kind of what I did, and I take it as a big compliment. But a bunch of people online, when I posted the link to it, went and listened to it, and they're all like, "Oh, Johnny's guitar playing on that track is hot." And you could tell the way they were saying it, they didn't realize I was playing guitar too. Because it says Christopher DeLisle featuring Johnny Highland. So I think the natural assumption that a lot of people made was that, Johnny was the one playing all the guitar parts, and I was maybe, strumming a few chords and singing somewhere in the background. But it's like, no, that's me and Johnny going back and forth and, playing guitar licks back and forth with each other and guitar dueling. And so the fact that people maybe didn't recognize that right away, I think that's actually a pretty big compliment, because I'd say that means I did my job pretty well. So
that's awesome. Now, how about the singing part of it? Were you always a singer as well? Because honestly, when I heard the song, I was like, the dude could sing too. He's got a great voice.
I appreciate that, man. I've been singing since as long as I could speak. And when I was in the car, I was singing everywhere we went. When I was like 3 years old, we have video of me when I was like 3 years old singing in Bible school and in church and everything. And when I was 3 years old, I could actually carry a tune. I knew how to manipulate my voice well enough to carry a tune. I could hear when things were out of tune. I seemed to have kind of a natural musical ear, I guess.
Mhm.
And so I could actually sing on pitch at like 3 years old. And so I've just sung my whole life. I would be the kid that like, I'm like 4 or 5. I'm gonna embarrass myself here a little bit, but I'd be the kid that was like 4 or 5 years old and hey, I gotta go potty, right? So my mom or my grandpa or whoever it was whoever's turn it was would walk me to the bathroom, and I'd go in the bathroom and they'd be standing outside the stall and I'd be sitting in there singing at the top of my lungs. I loved the reverb in bathrooms, I guess, and people would walk in and using a public restroom, and they'd hear me in there just a singing, and my grandpa or my mom or whoever it was would just be standing there shaking their head. And they'd be like, "Man, he just sings everywhere he goes." So if that says anything, I've been singing my whole life, and I took some vocal lessons in high school, just to try to learn how to control it a little bit more. I don't really think of myself as a vocalist by any means. I do something that I think is good enough for government work, as they say. It gets me by, and it does my thing, and it is what it is, and I enjoy it. But there's a lot of people out there that vocally can just circles around me. But it works, and it allows me to do the guitar artist thing, because my guitar playing and technique and the riffs that I'm coming up with and writing, like, that's really my main thing. But to be able to do the vocals on top of it makes it, I think, a little bit easier listening for people, because you got to be a pretty big guitar nerd to just listen to an entire album's worth of straight instrumental guitar music the entire way.
So what is going to be like the plan now? Like, are you going to like work on more singles, or is this actually like part of something, a complete EP or album that you're working on currently, or?
Yeah, I think the world that we live in right now, because of streaming and digital music working the way that it does, singles are what people really seem to enjoy.
Mhm.
It's also financially a little bit more approachable when you're an independent artist. Like, Ash and I are both independents. We don't have any money behind us. We pay for this ourselves.
Right.
Um, it's a little more approachable to do that one song at a time.
Hmm.
So, kind of the plan is, there's some other songs that I would love to be able to record, to do some cool things with. There's also some other musicians that I would love to reach out to and say, hey, would you like to do a collaboration here? And I think that something that's really important to me for this extended project, I guess, is, as we can call it, is, I'd like to do more singles, and I'd like to, depending on different songs or their styles or what they're about or different kinds of things, I'd like to actually reach out to some people that I really respect as musicians, now that I've kind of set this tone with Johnny. And I'd like to
Hmm.
go into the studio with some other fantastic musicians as well, and collaborate with them and really highlight what it is they do, what their influence on me has been, and kind of how that allows us to work together. Because I think it highlights people that are important to me and that I want to see succeed. And it also sort of helps define that thing that I'm showing people of, like, what is it I do? What is a guitar artist? You walk into a studio and you can be a little bit of a chameleon sometimes as a guitar artist, because you kind of have to fit into different molds. And so working with different musicians in different ways to show off not only what they do, but what I can do with them, and kind of writing some of these things and showing people, like, this is why I do what I do. Like, that's kind of the direction and the brand. And I don't I don't know exactly what the timeline looks like on that, but
Sure.
it's kind of a one song at a time, and reaching out to other people and seeing when they're available to work, or who might be interested, or that kind of a thing. But I'd love to start doing some more of this kind of stuff. And I'm a guitar teacher, by trade, as far as making money, and keeping the bills paid and stuff. And so I hope that doing some more of this kind of stuff also brings people in to be like, man, I want to learn what that guy's doing.
Right.
And work with students on that kind of stuff, and help them understand what it is I do, why I do it, how I do it, and how I've never met a single person that I can't teach to play guitar if they're willing to put the work in.
Hmm.
So that's all wrapped up in that.
Also, too, I guess now, I mean, going back to not only the single but the guitar teacher part of you,
Mm.
as you're putting out singles like this, you can also open that market up to not just, students here in Nashville. You can end up with students around the world.
Yes. Yeah, I actually have several students that I teach remotely. One of them is in Canada,
Wow.
and he's been with me for a little while, for actually for quite a while, and he's actually doing the guitar artist thing himself now.
Nice.
He's kind of in the latter years of his life. He's an older guy than I am for sure, and just kind of wanted to strum a few chords when he came to me. And, next thing you know, he's starting to play lead guitar, and he's finding a style and starting
Wow.
to do all this kind of stuff. And he's writing original music and going into the studio, and people are asking him to play for them and, do
That's
all this kind of
amazing.
stuff. And it, just kind of turned into this whole thing. And so as much as I'm a guitar artist and I record music, a big part of, I think, being a guitar artist is inspiring other guitar players to do what it is you do. And that's why I love doing that. And it's great because with digital technology now, I teach via Google Duo and FaceTime and Skype and Facebook video and all of this kind of stuff. Like I teach, I can teach anyone anywhere in the world if they can meet at the same time. And I've done that. I've, taught people overseas and gotten to do those kinds of things because of the world that we live in. So, yeah, there's really no limit to what I can do. And, again, I was 15 years old wondering, can I ever actually learn to do that?
Mm.
And through a great deal of hard work and self-discovery and research and all these things I've done, I actually sort of came up with this compiling of things that came to me from different mentors into one really straightforward way of looking at guitar that I've shown to all of my students. And every single student that I teach this to looks at me and goes, why don't they just teach guitar this way everywhere?
Wow.
And the only thing I can tell people is I don't know. I don't know, because when you learn this, it makes you sit here and say, why does everyone think this is so hard? Now, if you want to do the really difficult, complex stuff, sure, it's going to take a lot of time. You're going to have to practice. You're going to put a lot of work into it because it's not easy per se. But it's absolutely doable for anybody that's willing to do just the time. It just takes time. It's practice and working on it. And, you do something a million times in a row the exact same way, you're going to get good at it eventually,
Absolutely.
And so it's just how long does it take? But understanding the guitar, understanding what it means to be a guitar player, what do you do with this? I mean, this honestly, it's just a lump of wood. Right? It's a lump of wood with some strings tied to it. It's not scary. It's not anything unapproachable. It's a very straightforward thing. It's a very functional piece of furniture, right? But it's what you decide to do with it, which comes down to what knowledge do you have and how do you approach the thing. And so if like, cool, I know how this thing works and I'm just going to practice these techniques, then you just pick it up and it's right. It's a very straightforward thing. And that sounds really difficult. And if you first pick up the guitar and try to do that, yeah, that is. But when you understand what it is I'm doing, you know why it works the way it does. You know what techniques it takes to do it efficiently. And you can just do it all straightforward. We'll just practice it every single day for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, more time if you have. And if you're having fun, go as long as you want. And eventually you'll be able to do that too. Like it's not any more difficult than that. And so it's this whole thing of being a guitar artist is like, yeah, I record and I perform songs and I want people to love my music, but I also want people to love the fact that guitar is a thing that they can learn to do too. And I want them to take
Right.
lessons if they're interested in that. And I want people to understand gear. And I want, companies that make really great gear. Like there's certain gear that I love. I love certain companies because of what they make, because it makes my job easier. I like telling everybody about their stuff, and I'd love to be able to partner with those companies when that time comes, when they get to a point where they see what I'm doing and they think I'm making a big enough mark that they want to, sort of partner with me in that. Like I'd love to do that too. And so there's all these elements that come together being a guitar artist. And that's what it's really about is, it's truthfully, it's very little about what it does to me. And it's very much about the impact it has on the world around me. And I think that's what being a guitar artist is really about. And so that's why these projects that I'm talking about and everything, it's like this is all fluid and organic, and working out based on what opportunities sort of come my way, and where I can be of the most help and the biggest impact for people.
Now, I got to ask this too, because you mentioned how Ash, your wife, is also a musical artist, and you're her guitar player. Will we ever? Will there ever be a Christopher Ash duet?
I think so. I've talked to her about that before. She's building sort of her thing, and I'm actually sort of really deeply involved in that with her. Like I'm teaching her guitar because she's learning to do a lot of the same stuff I can do, because we're gonna duo the guitar thing on stage, right? Like we're gonna do the dueling Telecaster kind of a thing, and that some different than the way I do it, but in her own way. That's something we're working on. And she's an incredible writer, but she's also an incredible guitar player, and she is just not afraid of the instrument, and she just wants to be better and better and better at it. So we're building these things in to kind of her brand and her idea. And so part of me as a guitar artist is being her lead guitar player and her band leader. And then as we kind of get that all settled, and it looks like we're going to be playing some shows this summer, hopefully.
Nice.
Fingers crossed that everything all works out, and COVID stays, at least under control enough that things like that are able to happen, and we can get back on the road and get back to doing stuff. But, as we build that kind of stuff, I would love to do, some kind of a duet or something along with her at some point in time, because there's no better muse than the woman that you love more than anything. And
there you go.
I tell her all the time, when she's there watching me play, like if she comes to a show that I'm doing, when she's watching me play, I play better. I definitely play better. And she asked me one time, she's like, why is that? And I said, because it doesn't matter how long I've been around you, or how much you say you love me, or how long we're going to be married, or any of that. If you're there, I am trying to impress you. I will be trying to impress you until the day that I die, because that's, I fell in love with her the moment I saw her, and that's never changed. It's just gotten stronger. So when she's there, I am better. So I'm sure I would be better as a guitar artist doing a duet kind of a, single or something with her than I probably would be at anything else, because it would mean that much more to me. So I would love something like that.
Oh, I totally expect it to happen at some point. I have like this, like all I see in the future is for like the two of you, a lot of music coming from the both of you, and some together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's really cool stuff coming, and the funny thing is we get the compliment from people all the time that we're a power couple. Mm-hmm. And the first time she and I were ever on stage together, it was just kind of like it was a writer's round. We weren't really that concerned about. We were just doing it for fun. And she was like, hey, if you want to play along with some of my stuff, go ahead. Because when we first started dating, it was very much like business and pleasure are two different things. She does her music, I do mine. We weren't going to in any way cross those two things, because we didn't want that. So we just did the show on stage, and I just kind of improvised along with her stuff. And we got off stage, and she goes, did you feel there was like some kind of electric something there? And I was like, oh yeah. And she's like, I've never had anybody play along with my stuff that easily. And she's like, I've never experienced that. And I said, to be honest, I don't think I have either. And it just turned into this thing. And it's like, because we are married, and we're also best friends, and we're also musicians, and all, like, it just all comes together, and we do this really cool thing. And so it's, over time it turned into this thing of like, well, would you like to be my lead guitar player and my band leader? And I'm like, yes, I very much would. Because
I'll take that job.
Yeah, it's like, she told me, she's like, I don't really think I can pay you because it would all go in the same bank account. I'm like, that's fine, I don't care. It's like, what possibly could be better for a guitar player than getting to go on the road and play with your super hot wife? Like, I mean, that's just,
there you go.
For me, that's the dream, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now I got to ask this, because I saw you put this video out the other day on social media. Are you a Bengals fan?
Fan is a strong word for somebody who survived the Bengals in the 90s and early 2000s. So when people say things about sports, I usually make the joke, like they'll start listing out like who's on the team and what the stats are and all this kind of stuff. and they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know anything about competitive basket weaving. Like, I know so little about sports. I basically know the rules of the game, and sometimes I know with the name of the team what city they're from, and that's about as far as my fanship usually goes. Now, that being said, I do like the Bengals because I come from that sort of Cincinnati tri-state area. I was there as a kid when I was most impressionable with sports, when the Bengals were probably at their worst. And, and nothing against the Bengals, but they had a rough time period. And, I'm very proud of the fact that they've come back. I think there's a lot of cool things in Cincinnati that are very related to my childhood, my upbringing in that area, and things that, even though I'm not necessarily a huge sports fan, like, I still take a lot of pride in that, because it's like, yeah, we may have been down for 30 plus years, but guess what? We can come back and we can fight our way back. And I think in the entire NFL, I think they've got the coolest helmets of everybody. I always have. Like, when
Always.
I thought it was super, super cool with the tiger stripes on their helmets. Like, I just thought they were just one of the coolest looking teams in the world. And there was a time period as a fan, like, I'm a fair weather fan, I guess. I've just never been that invested into sports, but when they ended up going to the Super Bowl, or getting this chance to go to the Super Bowl now, I was like, man, I was talking with my mom about it, and I was like, I should put something out, like, some sort of a Bengals related thing and stuff, and show some support, because even though I'm in Nashville, I'm a tri-state area boy at heart, and that's where I come from. And, your heritage matters a lot in turning you into who you are. And so it's like, I think it would be a respectful thing for the heritage that I have to put a little something out for the Bengals. So,
dude, it's a great song. It's a great song. You got to get that out to the Cincinnati Bengals fan base. They'll go nuts for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was funny. I sat down. I was actually supposed to be sending out invoices for my guitar students, because, you have to run a business, right? And I sat down, and I was kind of like, I was just thinking about it, and I was like, and I kind of hummed something to myself, stop what I'm doing, turn around, grab Ashley's acoustic guitar, pull it up, start writing this thing, and about 15 minutes later, I'm like, cool, there we go. And it just, I don't know, it just sort of happened. So I then didn't get around to my invoices until later that night. So,
can you do that real quick?
Yeah, sure. I can pull it up and show you a little bit of something with it. I've literally played it one time, and it was enough to make the video. So let me see if I see if I even have the lyrics anywhere here. Oh man. See, this is the thing. It's like it's like this sort of, you just do it. So as a songwriter, you just do these things like so last minute, and and it's just like, what are you like even doing,
I was wondering, like, when I watch, I'm like, I wonder if he just, like, off the top of his head just belted it out like that, 1, 2, 3, and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much did. I mean, I just kind of threw the lyrics down and everything, and so "Who Dey" is the chant of the Bengals fans, and they do the "Who Dey, who dey, who dey think gonna beat them Bengals? Nobody," right? And it's far more impressive when you're actually in the stadium, and there's several thousand people all doing it in unison. But
right.
But yeah, I kind of took, like, I mean, like I said, I grew up on rock and southern rock and classic rock and 80s hair metal and stuff, and so I did this kind of like, just a little kind of throwing it out there from the fan chant. But yeah, it just, it was just kind of a fun little thing. And, especially because of social media and like TikTok and that kind of stuff, I set my little studio lamp over here to be orange and I wore a black shirt and, just tried to
having fun with it.
tried to throw a little shout out there for the Bengals. So
That's awesome. That is freaking awesome. So, with the electric, you want to do any over there chicken picking for us before we wrap up, or?
Yeah. What I thought would be kind of fun, because I mean, look, I'm a guitar teacher. I'm a guitar teacher at heart, and one of the things that I think is super cool, if I do say so myself, about Work Don't Work, is there is a thing with electric guitar and with chicken picking where it's called the working man blues pattern, right? Merle Haggard got working man blues, one of the the classic kind of chicken picking country tunes. There's a technique in the right hand, and it's this pattern, this sort of chordal thing, right? And then so you get this kind of that little hammer-on thing where you change the note. And for any of the music nerds that maybe have some experience with theory, basically you're taking a minor third and making it a major third, and it plays on that minor third, major third thing that makes country, honky-tonk, hillbilly blues kind of stuff sound the way that it does. And that's the magic note. And so there's this this thing called the working man blues pattern. So the working man blues riff kind of goes, right? And so it's got that chunky little rhythmic offbeat thing going on, along with that little hammer on of the minor third to the major third. And so as we were writing Work Don't Work, we were talking about like, well, this is all hearkening back to like that chicken picking, coming from the kind of the working man idea and the guitar things that have sort of developed out of that. And so I sat down, and this is like a year after we wrote the song, right? I listened to the voice memo I put in my phone of this song, which was terrible because we had just gotten done writing it. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to pick this apart now. And I have to figure out how am I going to play this? Like, I'm going to go in the studio and I'm going to do this. So what am I going to do? And, Ash and I talked about it, and it's like, well, let's reference kind of that working man blues thing. That's the technique I'm going to use to play it anyway. So let's reference it. And so it's based off of this A chord shape thing that I do. And then I come up here and I do this just like the working man blues pattern. And then I add my own little riff on the end of it. And so it turned into this whole thing. And then I think it's sort of the core of what made the song sound the way that it does. And so you put this, you put those little things together, you get the right rhythm going on, and you add in a little bit of your stank, as it were, whatever your style is, right? And you end up with something that kind of goes a little like this. I'm no 9-to-5er, more than a all-nighter. Wear no suit and tie, but I sure clean up nice, and I have to. Don't you try to stop my strumming on this telly. Spend my whole life playing, 'cause work don't work for me. Right? And that's kind of your whole vibe. And then, you just you throw in all the little. You throw in that little stuff right there, and next thing you know, you got a tune you're doing with Johnny Halen. So
it's amazing. I freaking love this song. It's crazy how that all just comes together.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to get it there, but again, this goes back to, this is why I teach. Mm-hmm. I would have never known how to do any of that, even as much as 5 or 6 years ago. Wow. I mean, all of the foundational pieces were there because I had gone through all of this. I mean, I went through college. Mm-hmm. Okay, I went through massively expensive classes to learn how to be a musician. And I didn't learn how to be a musician the way that I really wanted to. And that's what I try to teach my students is, it's like, if you want to go to college, cool, go to college for music. Make sure you know why you're doing it. Don't waste a bunch of money if it's not what you really want to do. But right. It's not a magic button. There's not some place you go and you spend $150,000 on a degree and you're going to come out and be this incredible musician. There's some very simple things you need to know, and I can teach you all that other stuff too, but there's some simple things you need to understand about being a guitar player and about doing this the right way. And when you understand that, then you can sit down and you can put in the work. And so I can say, so this is an A chord shape. Guess what? There's one up here, which also is based off of that chord shape. And I can add in different notes on things, right? Or I can come up here and I know that there's a little A triad there. Like I know where things are around the neck. That's not something I learned in college. And that's certainly not something that I never knew naturally, right? All of that and being able to put things together like these riffs, all of that stuff is a simple combination of understanding what I'm hearing, understanding what technique it takes to execute that, and understanding where on the neck it exists, because the guitar is all patterns. Music is all patterns, really, in general, but the guitar is all patterns. And so being able to just execute, and being able to... Right? It's just technique and knowing where it is, and then you just do it 100,000 times and spend 10,000 hours to, master things in 10,000 hours. You just spend the time to do it. And that's really all it is. It is that approachable for every single person. And that's why I love teaching people, because I don't want them to struggle for 2 decades like I did trying to figure it out because they just didn't have the right information or have it expressed, in the proper way. And nothing against any of my old guitar teachers. They all taught the best that they knew how. I was very thankful for the teachers I had. They did a wonderful job. But I'm just trying to reinvent the way guitar is taught, because I think that a lot more people should be able to play than are capable of playing. And I think there's a lot of people out there who could be fantastic musicians. No one's ever taken the time to tell them that they're worth it, because I didn't really know that I was either. I didn't think that I'd ever be able to do any of this. And I hoped, I dreamed, I thought, man, I wonder if I would ever be able to pick up a guitar and do that. And now here I am at 33 and I'm just...
That's awesome. That's awesome. Dude, I'll tell you what, at some time in the future, whenever I get guitars back in my life, I had a whole bunch of them and lost them in a divorce. That's a whole nother story. But whenever I do eventually get guitars back in my life, I think we're going to talk, because I'm going to take lessons from you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you let me know. I would love to teach you, and then maybe we can do a collaboration ourselves, and we'll get you recorded music out there too.
Absolutely, it would be a blast.
Yeah.
All right. So where's the best place? Let's send everybody to hear the song, hear you and Johnny Highland, learn more about you, also track you down and hunt you down, and get guitar lessons from you as well.
Yeah. The easiest place to go is just my website. It's just ChristopherDeLisle.com. I think it's scrolling on the screen there. ChristopherDeLisle.com. The link for the song is there. It'll give you the chance to choose. Do you want, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, like any of that kind of stuff. The song is available anywhere digital music is available. It's out there anywhere people can find it, but it's a little bit easier when you're an independent artist that doesn't have the backing to show up in search results as easily. It's a little bit easier to just use the link. So go to the website. It's on the main page. I've got a little, thing on there that says the single is out, and there's a link. They can just click the button. It'll take them to a page where they can then choose, which of those services they would like to use. Or if there's another, it's on all the others, the lesser known digital music services as well. On my website as well is a lessons page that has kind of a breakdown of what I do, pricing wise and information wise, what things are. I'm always happy to talk to if there's, something that someone was like, would you do like every other week, or would you do this? Or, I'm kind of looking for this lesson. Do you teach that? Literally, there's a button you're going to click, and it's going to give you a chance to send me an email. I'm the one that answers those emails. It's not, it's not going through a service anywhere. It's me. I'm happy to chat with anybody about anything music related, guitar wise, and if there's a way I can help them out, happy to do that. Any info about me is on my bio page. That's all there. And if for some reason any of that stuff fails, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of that kind of stuff. It's either just my name, Christopher DeLisle, or it's Christopher DeLisle Music. You'll find me pretty much at either one. And if you shoot me a message on social media and it responds to you, that's me as well. I don't have a social media team running it. That's me on the other end. So I'll be sitting at work and my phone will pop up with a notification, and when I'm on my lunch break, I'll take a look at it and answer you back. So I'm very reachable in all of those ways, and so I do guitar lessons. I do songwriting lessons. I've got a degree in that. I may as well put that to use, right?
Sure.
I do bass guitar lessons, at least just beginning bass. I'm not any great bass player, but I did play bass for the track as well.
Okay.
I didn't hire a bass player. I just played my own. I do artist development lessons. So, if you want to talk about like websites and branding and color choice and, booking yourself and how do you get out there and all that kind of stuff, I do that kind of stuff, and I do mentorship type things like that. I also do studio work remotely. So if someone out there is a musician and they're like, man, that's super cool. I love that chicken picking stuff. And I'd love to just have a chicken picking, like a Nashville chicken picking guy just kind of on my track. I'd love to get a little bit of that. Hit me up. I'll do remote tracking stuff. You just, you send me an MP3 of what it is, and I record my guitar parts and I shoot them back to you, and then you take it to your favorite mix engineer and have them drop it into the session for you. So,
nice.
Guitar player for hire. And I also, I play shows. I can do covers and originals and, acoustic full band, all of that stuff. But you can just go to my website. You can find me for any of that. There's a contact form on there. So if there's something somebody wants to talk to me about that there's not already a specific tab for, you can just use the contact form or just send me an email.
Cool. Chris, this has been awesome, man. Congrats on the song. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the biggest. I would, like you said earlier in the interview, I was the same way. Like growing up, I was the hard rock metal guy, and that's where my heart of music always has been. And I was always very close-minded to country and other genres for the most part. But when I started doing interviews like this and talking to other artists from other genres, it opened my eyes and mind and ears to everything. And it's just like, wow, I get it now. I totally get it now.
Absolutely. Well, I really had the benefit of, I was the same way. I was kind of hard-nosed towards country. And when I sort of discovered Johnny and I found that it was really cool to kind of do this, and I started trying to do it, and then all of a sudden I realized I can play all this rock stuff in the world and I can't play a lick of country. And when I try, my fingers are in knots and I'm struggling. And I just got this massive respect. Now, country is not always country. There's a lot of stuff on radio that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. If other people like it, that's cool. That's great. It's not what I do. It's not what I call country. What I call country is, a Telecaster and some either clever or emotionally, riveting lyrics or something. And especially with the style that I do, there's going to be a lot of hot country playing. Like that's the whole point for me. That's what I like. That's country. But I have the benefit of realizing how much respect I have for that because of how hard it is to do. Because I could do all that other stuff, and then I tried this, and I was like, ooh, that is a whole different ball game to make that hard to do that. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Chris, dude, thanks again so much, and let's keep in touch more. Yeah. And I'm surprised there's no Flash shirt on. What's going on with that? You didn't wear it for the wedding. You didn't wear it today. Come on.
I know. The thing is, like, if people look at like old pictures of me on social media, you'll realize I've lost a lot of weight, and I've got a bunch more to lose. I'm still working on it, but getting your confidence in check and doing music and doing what you love and letting go of the stress and getting yourself healthy and all these kinds of things, they're all good things to do. And so along with the weight went the Flash shirt. It's still in the closet. It still gets used occasionally, but as an artist, I have my look and my brand that my lovely wife has approved.
Absolutely.
And, has helped me develop and everything. So that's why there's no Flash shirt, but I do still have it, and I will hang on to that until the day that I die, or until it gets thrown away, as I am vetoed by all of the women in my life who say no more comic book shirt.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, dude. Well, congrats again, man. Say hi to Ash for us. And let's meet up soon, and let's go eat some food. And even though it's not your bread, but hey.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, listen, the whole apartment is smelling great right now because I've got pork in the pressure cooker for redneck tacos. So anytime you want, you let me know. You guys come on over. I'll cook dinner because you know I cook. You know I do it. It's like the restaurant review thing is great. There's a lot of places we got to check out together for sure because you know some places you can tell me. But y'all want to kick back and have some homemade DeLisle style food, you let me know. I'll make dinner happen.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, babe. I appreciate it, man.
You got it. Bye.